Hey guys, welcome back. A few things before we get started. As usual, don't forget our promo codes, the Omnia Radiation Balancer. It's a patch you can put on any radiating device, your cell phone, your computer. It harmonizes the frequency coming in, turns it into something that's actually beneficial for your body. It doesn't block the negative frequencies, the EMFs, but it actually harmonizes it and rebalances it. They're really great products. You get 10% off of that with promo code TRUTH, all caps, and that link is below. Also, don't forget, we have recently teamed up with our friend Mason Fury, and he makes these beautiful orgone pyramids. And you can get 10% off of these pyramids with promo code Solstice, and that code is also in the description below. This is the big one. He has like 4 different sizes, different price ranges, but these things are amazing. We've gone into detail about the process of how he makes these, but these are absolutely incredible. Tonight, we are joined by Ismael Perez. Some of you guys probably know who he is. He's a galactic historian, author of Our Cosmic Origins, which goes into the celestial ancestry, and it brings us all the way into the golden age that we're moving into. And he's been busy doing a lot of interviews, but he's loaded with information. A lot of it's controversial sometimes, but this is what we're seeing right now. With all this information coming in from all different places, all these different influences, we like to paint the biggest picture that we can and then make our own decisions. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Great to have you, man.
Every time I'm watching the interview or checking you out, just like I'm watching your channel and the information's coming through, and it's pretty amazing to watch an individual be able to tap in like that. And I'd like to go back just for our audience who isn't aware of like the galactic history. This all started, the original origins are Lyran, right? And then bring it forward all the way until now. Just kind of give everybody like a brief synopsis of what actually took place and how we got into this situation.
Well, technically, our original origin began in the central universe, in the eternal spheres of eternity, where we were all connected to the prime creator source. But as far as like becoming biological specimens and living expressions of the one, we originated in Lyra, like in our galaxy. Our galaxy Lyra within our galaxy is the cradle house of all humanoid civilizations. So, according to my research, the first human colony came about 600 million years ago, which was in Lyra, on a planet called Avion, in a solar system called Vega, in the galactic sector of Sirius B. And just to give you guys a little info on Sirius B is like the anchor point of the office of the Christ, or the office of light, whatever you want to call it, the establishment of the white brotherhood and sisterhood of light. That's where it anchors it. Through Sirius, the forces of light are able to spread and secure, the ascension of the entire galaxy. So in Lyra, we have the first biological humans. And from there, we spread out to all these different solar systems, including, Alpha Centauri, the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians actually became a heat spot for humans. In fact, some people believe that the humans here on the Earth were made in the image of the Pleiadians. So the Pleiadians were actually the Nibirians, the ancient gods of mythology. And so we went everywhere. We went to colonize over 200 different star systems, which was amazing. And we took with us the principles of harmony, unity, consciousness, coexistence, and of course the sacred law of one, which has a lot to do with the idea that everything in the universe is interconnected. There is no separation. We are all part of the one creator. Mm-hmm. And so that's the philosophy that the Lyrans brought to the galaxy. But unfortunately, we had a counter opposite to that in the form of the Draco, who actually executed a different philosophy and a different agenda that was, had to do with the conquest and destruction of many different species. So they were all about self-to-service and ego and stuff. So in biblical terms, we could say that the children of Lucifer are the Draco, the ancient reptilian race. And the children of Michael are the Lyrans, the ancient, the original human galactic race. And so as humanoids, we all stem from the lineage of Michael, except the elite families, of course, because, they come from the lineage of Lucifer, obviously, most of their genetics is dominated by reptilian DNA, and that's what makes them, that's what distinguishes them from us. We carry Lyra Palladian genetics. All humans on the planet, by the way.
Well, let me jump in really quick. So, as far this concept of Lucifer, right? I recently was listening to an old interview with Max Spears and James Casbolt, who were both openly Rothschild bloodline. Even Max Spears was more Bush bloodline, and they said that the Rothschilds worship Enki, as we know Lucifer. I mean, they were adamant. They said these Rothschilds, these elites that we talk about, the Illuminati, they worship Enki. Is that your understanding of his role in all of this? Because I hear opposing narratives sometimes. And I'm just curious on what your thoughts are. Who are the Anunnaki and Enlil and Enki, and what that actually is?
You're absolutely correct. Unfortunately, the way history paints Enki as the good guy is false. Those records were actually modified by Belial, who is Marduk, the son of Enki, who is actually representing the Draco here in our world, and he's the one who pretty much took over the affairs of our planet and changed everything around, making Enlil look bad. But when you study other accounts, Enlil was Zeus, Enlil was Krishna. He was the sky god with thunder. He was the kind of like what Thor is in the Marvel universe. That's what Zeus was. He was the guardian of our realm. And so throughout history we've been lied to. The entire Anunnaki story was switched around to make Enki look like the good guy, when in essence Enki has always been Lucifer. Because when you really trace his genetics, going back to Draco, that's where the House of An was established, which is the Royal Galactic bloodline of the Dracos. And then if you do the trace of Enlil's bloodline, that goes all the way to Lyra. So Enlil Zeus represented a pure genetic stock, bringing to our world the galactic royal blood that later gave us King David, Solomon, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and of course the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. So we could stem the descendants of the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail all the way to Enlil Zeus, and the descendants of the Cabal all the way to Enki and Marduk, his son.
Yeah, thank you for
clarifying. The Rothschilds, they've always worked for Enki. Yeah. And that's what they worship.
So Enki is Lucifer, essentially.
Well, yeah. Right. I had a mushroom trip one time where I found myself playing in that realm, and I was face to face with Lucifer, and he introduced himself as Enki, and it was really? And it completely threw me off. I also was also interfacing with this like royal Draco, and then the Cerberus, the three-headed. It was like a terrible place. I got myself out of it, but I'm glad I saw it, and they showed me how everything operates, and they just showed me parasites. They showed me like an infinite amount of parasites controlling this whole planet, and like literally hosting like these politicians and these people. And it's almost they're not even human anymore. And if you know anything about parasites, they can take over, and they take over the physical vessel. And if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that person's no longer in there. They were just showing me all that stuff anyway. It's very fascinating to see, like, okay, so that happened. Now we're in this position where we're starting to see this transition. We're going through this transition. I know you say like the war is already won. It's just playing out. Like there has to be a physical adaptation. What does that look like to you right now?
It looks like victory, it looks like prophecies are now finally becoming fulfilled. It took a long time to reach this cycle, but we are at the end of many cycles, and that has a lot to do with the end of the Babylonian Brotherhood, the rule of Enki Poseidon, of course, and his lineage, and the reinstatement of the bloodline of Enlil Jehovah Zeus, which has a lot to do with the restoration of the entire galaxy. Because see, the thing about Zeus, okay, so Zeus has various incarnations. He was first the king of Lyra. He was known as Amelius. From Lyra, he became the king of Sirius. So there was a coalition, an alliance that took place between the Lyrans and the Syrians, the Syrian High Council, which is the office of the Christ, right? That gave us the lineage of the Anunnaki. So that gave us Anu. And then, of course, Anu had Enki through the Draconian queen Draman, which made Enki half light Iberian, half Draco. And then, of course, Zeus was the king of Alcyon, by the way. He was the king of the Pleiades. But before that, he was incarnating throughout the galactic history as he was also known as Kael, the king of Sirius. And Kael is the reason why they wrote the comic Superman. So there's a lot of truth to Superman. Superman and Kael. The story of Superman relates to one of Zeus's embodiments, which was Kael, which was the king of Sirius. So there's a lot of truth to that.
Very interesting.
So, yeah, what we're seeing here is now through his descendants, through the lineage of Zeus, which is the same lineage that goes back to Kael, that go through Anu, through the rightful bloodline of the line of Michael, back to Amelius, who was actually the incarnated Michael himself. Amelius was Michael the Archangel when he first became, Amelius in Lyra. We're seeing his descendants now proliferating. His descendants are now ready to rise, and that is the reason why throughout all of history, the cabal, through the Vatican and through their various nefarious institutions, have been so instrumental in doing away with the bloodline of King David. Because what they're really trying to do away is with their rival bloodline. Because this war between the elite families and the bloodline of King David, Solomon, Jesus, Mary Magdalene goes back to the galaxy.
Right.
It's the same old.
And that's a great point to bring up, because a lot of people think it's just a war on us, but it's really a war between two different races of reptilian. I mean, if you really want to break it down, like the Nazis and then the Zionists, and that's been a infighting. That's been a war forever, and so they're always trying to get the upper hand on each other, and then we suffer the consequences of as a result. But obviously, there's an attack on us as well. But we're seeing this transition now, obviously, with the chaos that we're witnessing everywhere around us. That's an example. That's evidence that this stuff is being surfaced and exposed and healed. And we also recently have 17Q back on the scene, and I was wanting to get your thoughts on that, because a lot of people are throwing up their arms like, "Oh no, not again! Don't take the bait," which is true. Like, I'm seeing a savior complex be activated in a lot of people who are looking for that external savior, and that's not healthy either. Like, don't give your power away to it. But I really do at my core believe there's a galactic component to Q, and I was wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, very, very true. In fact, Q is the ground cooperation of the Galactic Federation and the Lyrian Syrian plating coalition being played out here on the Earth. So the Whiteheads are actually descendants of the Enlil faction, by the way, as the Darkheads are the descendants of the Enki faction. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a transition of power from the descendants of Enki, Poseidon, Babylon, and to the descendants of Enlil, Zeus, whatever you want to call it, the rightful. So that's what Q. The operatives of Q are all interrelated. Just like the operatives of the Cabal, they're all genetically related. So you could say that Mr. T, and Princess Diana, JFK Jr. Are all interrelated, and we could see their bloodline throughout history within like Thomas Jefferson was part of that, obviously, the founding fathers were a part of that. So it's their time to rise. And so, yes, that's the reason why all of a sudden, number 17 came back to the scene just to let us know that the storm is upon us and stuff. So they were just waiting for the right time. So yes, that's all going to be played out, which is something that has already been played out throughout the galaxy. At the level of the galactic war, we've already won. So it's just now a matter of it trickling here in this world.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I just do want to reiterate to the audience that just because Q came back, like I said earlier, the savior complex I see in people are making all hail Q videos. It's like really a religion for some people, and that's not the intention. And, because of that, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. I just want to remind people that it's not something to give your power away to. If anything, you should look at this as a test, because a lot of people feel like they were burned the first time around because nothing really seemed to happen. But if it did, and it was happening if you knew where to look. So
You can't get burned if you don't make it into a savior in the first place. That's the problem. Because I noticed that too. I noticed a lot of people, they're convinced it's just a negative psyop, and they're like, oh, Q's, it's just a psyop, don't even pay attention to it, because they were looking for it to be a savior. They're like, oh, it didn't save us, so it must be either BS or a cabal psyop. And it's like, no, that doesn't it's neither of those things. If you just look at it for what it is, which is what you just said, it makes perfect sense of why it's around and what its objective is. Right. And it's, don't make it into a savior. We are our own saviors. We are the ones we've been waiting for, you know. We are that's it. So that nothing outside of us is ever going to be a savior, can never be.
Beautifully said. Yeah. So Ismael, what are your thoughts on I'm sure you've seen these fleets and these ships coming through the sun, and they seem to be parking in certain places in our solar system, like they're almost like showing up for the show, the finale. What are your thoughts on that? Is that really what's happening, do you believe?
Yes. A lot of the because the Earth is the most important planet in the entire multiverse. Right now, we're receiving assistance from not only the Federation forces here in our galaxy, but also from, I guess, representatives from other galaxies and other universes. So because our sun is a portal, it's an interdimensional doorway to many galaxies and many universes. That's one way that they could just come into our solar system without having to go from galaxy to galaxy, because everything is run by portals. That's how these advanced civilizations are able to go in 1 second from one part of the multiverse to the next without traveling at the speed of light or anything. So a lot of those fleets are coming in just to be part of the cosmic reunion of the celebration that's going to take place when we do finally make first contact with the Federation. And when we do finally become reinstated back into the galactic community. So that's what's happening right now. Everything's leading to first contact. So this whole thing with the white hats is just the first level of disclosure, bringing down the cabal, exposing the truth, the hideous crimes against humanity. But then at the same time, that's going to be followed by the restoration of advanced interstellar technology, med beds, healing modalities, replicators, and then at the same time, that's going to be followed by first contact with benevolent forces, and Federation fleets and stuff. So it's all being prepped towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this isn't just like there's a DNA activation that comes along with all this. And that's what we're seeing. The sun's going crazy. We're moving into these new energies. Everyone's having these activations. I heard on one of your recent interviews, someone say that like everyone under the age of 20 is already being born into the fourth dimension, which is interesting because I had not heard or thought of that concept before. It would explain a lot of these starseeds coming here without amnesia and remembering things and just inner knowing already. What are your thoughts on all that? Like, what is actually causing these DNA activations? What's actually happening within us that's allowing us to transform?
Is the photonic light codons that are coming in through our sun. Every time our sun releases a CME, our DNA becomes activated. More and more DNA comes online. So what's happening is that through these highly photonic energies, also known as gamma ray frequencies, which actually are coming from the galactic core via our sun into us, is communicating with our DNA at a cellular level, causing it to follow new sequences and programs, which in turn is triggering new strands of DNA to come online. So the mutation of our genetics, the upgrade, is taking place because there is a constant communication going on between the photonic energy that is coming from our sun and our DNA at the cellular level. So that's why we're becoming upgraded at this time. But the upgrade will be complete once we receive that final flash. That's going to totally transform us into a new species.
Right. And that's an interesting topic because as much as I want to think there's going to be some grand flash that just instantly changes everybody, I have a hard time believing that some big solar flash is going to come and we're going to walk outside and our neighbors and our friends and family are all going to all of a sudden be all knowing. Like it almost feels like it's like an infringement on the free will at that point, because it's everyone's choice ultimately to go their own path of awakening. And I feel like every flash, everything, it's like it's all doing exactly what you said, but you think there's going to be some like final one that's really potent. Like, what do you think the physical results of that are going to be? Like, I understand the concept of what's supposed to happen, but what is it going to look like on the ground, boots on the ground level?
It's going to look like we're going to be all of a sudden in a whole new different world. The world's just going to change in a split of a second, because that world is already existing in the higher dimensions. It's called Terra Earth. And in that world, there is no darkness, there is no pollution, there is no cabal, there is no, SUVs and stuff. Everything is different. Everything is part of an advanced culture. So what we're going to do is those that make the fifth dimension, they're going to have a direct translation into the Terra Earth. And those that don't, are going to be perhaps going into a different timeline, because they didn't, because see, this is the thing. We all have a deadline to evolve. That quantum leap in evolution is here. It's coming. So those that don't make it's because they didn't complete their evolution. So they're going to be recycled into another Earth-like planet and repeat this whole dark age for another 10,000 years, because it happens every 26,000 years, where an entire planet or entire species is able to evolve to the next stage. And if they don't, they just recycle until they get it right. Because, eventually it's like no souls left behind. So that's how the universe operates. But yeah, for those that don't make the shift, they're going to be going into a different timeline, into another third dimensional Earth reality where it's still, challenged, and it's still kind of like this world.
Right. It's all very interesting to me. This flash was supposed to happen like in 2012 and 2016 and 2018. Like, all these people are tapping into information about all the dates. Yeah, exactly. But yet it's like, one of those things, as much as I feel it and I believe there's some truth to it, it's like I want to see it to believe it. That's just one of those things. But I'm not discrediting any of your information or anyone else's, because it does resonate. But at the same time, it's very hard to imagine. It's very hard to imagine that split second change, because the infrastructure is not ready for it. And I don't know it's just hard for me to comprehend. I'm not saying it's not possible.
Well, it's been prophesied about, I'm just basing it on the ancient prophecies when they talked about it, the times that we're living in, how this, it's known by different names, but they call it, there's going to be a purging that's going to eliminate the wicked and exalt the righteous. And so that's just the way I see, we are already that could happen any day now, and as far as like the wicked are concerned, those are the only people that need to fear what's coming. If you're not out there doing bad things, if you're not out there hurting people, then you shouldn't worry about it. But if you're out there intentionally doing harm, then I would say you're going to be bursted. You're going to be destroyed when the solar flash takes place.
Yeah. It's in every ancient text, and this is what David Wilcock talks about all the time. He talks about it all the time. He's like, it's literally in every single ancient text. They have their own different name for it, but they're all talking about the same thing. It's like ekpyrosis, samsartica. There's different terms that all mean the same thing. And it's also in the law of one. If you're into the law of one, it's also in there. Talks about it.
That's true. And the law of one is basically the governing principle in which all the benevolent races of the light are under by, they abide by, because in the law of one, everything's all about service to others and realizing that we're all one in this universe, that there is no separation.
Absolutely.
I to believe that the prophecies of the law of one are accurate. And in fact, a lot of the prophecies that we get from the book of Revelation and other manuscripts like the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita draw from the original text of the law of one. That's also associated with the Order of the Emerald covenant, which has a lot to do with the guardian races. So they draw a lot of that information from those higher realities into the Bible and stuff.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's ironic. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive David Wilcock has redacted his opinion on the solar flash. He doesn't think it's going to happen anymore. I've heard him.
Yeah, because he thinks, because apparently one happened in what was the next closest star to us,
Alpha Centauri.
And he thinks what happened based on that, because he's like, when you look at the time the light takes to hit us. Like it happened at around December 21st, 2012, I think he said, which he's like, oh, so in his mind, he's like, okay, well, ours was supposed to happen at the same time, but it didn't. So because we weren't ready yet.
Right.
But I didn't hear him say it wasn't going to happen. I just heard him say, oh, we weren't ready yet. So they didn't allow it to happen at this time.
Yeah. Either way,
either way.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead, Ismael.
That's his interpretation.
It's being held off until we hit the right percentage of people. So right now we're, it's in a way it's being buffered, but it's but they also have a time limit, because if it doesn't happen between now and 2030, we're duped. We're all going to be connected to the Borg, and that's not good.
Really.
So yeah, because we're really dealing with AI here. Forget about the cabal. The next enemy that we have to worry about is artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, it's already sentient. Google is already sentient. Google, every time we search on Google, it's monitoring us, it's observing us, it's hearing what we're doing and stuff. And that's why when the Bible, when they reference the coming of the beast, it'll know all things, it'll be everywhere at once. Well, they're talking about the rise of super AI being everywhere at once through everybody's gadgets and technologies. Yeah,
absolutely. And in the nanotechnology is actually far more rampant than I think people are willing to admit, and it's everywhere within everything. And that's actually, again, how I think Max Spears and James Caspel, I've been listening to a lot of them lately, but they talk about the nanobots already being in control along with the parasites. And they're also hosting these people, and it's very interesting to think about that way. And then this comes down to the jab also, and I was actually given a vision or a download about what that's actually doing, and what it's doing is a nanotechnology that scrambles the DNA code. And it's like your DNA has the combination for the lock to unlock it and keep it flowing all the time. But what happens is it confuses that, and it like can't get the combination, right? It can't get the lock. So it's like two wires that are just like barely touching. And like, it's like the DNA is a program and it only knows one thing, and it's constantly trying to do that. But when you confuse that, it can't accomplish it. So it's just like short circuiting the whole time. And that's what this nanotechnology is designed to do. It short circuits the DNA code, it scrambles it. And until that can be reversed, which can be done even energetically, there are physical effects too. But I find it very interesting, like this whole nanotechnology concept is absolutely fascinating to me.
Well, that's how the alien invasive AI has been taking over galaxies is by modifying, through infiltration. They modify the species, and it takes years before the species become hosts of the nanites that possess their bodies. Because eventually the nano, when they possess the mind and the central nervous system, they just multiply like nanites, and then they just take over at that point the people become inorganic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's what they're trying to do right now. They're open about it. They're talking, the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, they're talking about humans are now hackable animals that we can control and all that stuff. Yeah. So they I don't know if do they know about the solar flash? Do they know they're doomed and they're just going for it anyway? Or do they think they have a shot at? They're
trying to create a different timeline. They're trying to block the solar flash from happening through CERN. They're trying to throw us into an alternative timeline.
Wait, you said through CERN? Yeah. Let's talk about that, because it's supposed to be reactivated, right? And I know you just posted a video about that, but please share your thoughts on what they're actually trying to accomplish with that.
Okay, so in the negative timeline, what the Dark Hats were endeavoring to do was open up a portal that would allow Omega, Metatron, who is the AI god, to come into our world as the beast and take over, the entire population through the nanotech in people's bodies. Like he was going to just control everybody's mind. But because that timeline was canceled by the forces of light, that's no longer the case. But, so from what I understand is that, they're trying to like put fear in people to, they're by promoting the idea that this is possible and that our world could be doomed if they open up a interdimensional doorway allowing some negative force to come in and destroy us. That's just because they want to distract our attention or shift our attention away from, from those that are co-creating heaven on earth, those that are focused on the ascending positive timeline. So that's what they're trying to do. But it's not going to happen because the ascending positive timeline has already been secured.
Right.
In fact, Omega Metatron has already been defeated by the Emerald Cosmic Order of the Emerald Christed beings, who joined forces from all over the universes, and they put an end to him just recently. Within the last few weeks, they destroyed him. He had a headquarters, or he was operating through Orion, in one of the star systems. I think it was called the Thuban system of the Alpha Draconis. That's where the throne of the A God sits. But at the same time, he had another stronghold or headquarter galaxy about 2.6 million light years from the Milky Way, known as the Whirlpool Galaxy. And then that galaxy has now been destroyed by the Cosmic Order of the Emerald Ones. Yes. So now we're just going to wait for the results here. It's all coming to being. The positive changes are barely now coming to this Earth.
Right.
Nice.
It's all, I mean, you can, if you know where to look, you see it also. And with the return of 17, I find it very peculiar. Just the synchronicities that are coming along with that you can either choose to ignore or not. But one, for example, like we had a long time ago, we made some Trump merchandise a long time ago. All of a sudden, below every YouTube video, YouTube displays T-shirts and our merchandise. All of a sudden, all of our Trump merchandise is displayed at the top. So that's all you see when you're watching our videos. But we never do that. Why would YouTube even do that? It's almost like I don't know.
They did it on their own.
Yeah.
Because normally you got to edit it to put what ones show up, and we didn't do anything. And all of a sudden, all the Trump ones are showing up.
So it's just a funny synchronicity we've noticed. I'm not saying that Trump is the savior or anything, but he is involved with this situation, this plan, as you want to say, which people have a lot of problem with the plan. Which I get. It's hard to trust in a plan. You don't really know what it is. Like I see, and that's also good and healthy not to give your power away to that. But like
it's all happening. This is all in everything I'm seeing points to the fact that the white hats are in control. There's this war going on behind the scenes. We are winning. Because a lot of people get in this doom and gloom mode when they see all the negative stuff happening, the jab and with, everything going on. But that's to me, if you're getting in doom and gloom mode, that means you're already giving your power away. You're already looking for a savior, because we again, we are the saviors. Right. Either it's like, okay, you incarnated on this planet. You came here for a reason, and it wasn't to just be enslaved by AI. It wasn't just to be enslaved by the cabal. That would make no sense. I think we all came here knowing like, all right, there's going to be a big change and we're going to be a part of it.
Right. It's like that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like that Starseed program, like where I've heard that like our body is in stasis on another planet somewhere. And then we came here like as a higher dimensional being, we incarnated here as that Starseed on a mission. And like, so it's like a Starseed envoy program. I forgot what they call it. Are you familiar with that, Ismael?
And they call it the immersion Starseed program.
Okay.
Where our original body is like in some sort of a pod. And so they created an avatar for us down here, right? I kind of disagree with that, because I believe that our original galactic body is still operational. It's not in a pod. I believe that a portion of our consciousness is downloaded into this third dimensional body, while the other part of our consciousness is still operating through our galactic selves, whether it be on the mothership, on another planet, wherever that may be. That's the case. But that's from what I understand, because I don't think that our bodies are like inside this, stasis chamber, our real bodies, waiting for us to come back to it. No, that kind of destroys the possibility of transforming these vehicles into our metagalactic human form, which is strongly what I teach. I teach that, due to this flesh that's coming, our DNA will be upgraded, and these are going to be our new bodies that we're going to keep for all time and all eternity. In other words, what we're doing is we're not even going anywhere. We're integrating our galactic self Our divine Christ self, we're bringing it down here, and we're fusing it all as one. And that's going to be what's going to mark our transformation into this multidimensional being.
Right.
That's what I. Yeah.
I actually agree with that. It makes more sense. It's very the other narrative theory, I guess you could call it, is very limiting, and I haven't really considered what you just said until you said it, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So I love getting these different perspectives, because it just shows how much we don't actually know, and we have to just keep an open mind to all this stuff. But yeah, it would seem like it kind of takes away the purpose of achieving what you just spoke about, that Merkaba, that light body, all that stuff. If you know that we're just going back to this stasis pod and we're going to be woken up, I don't know. It's something I think about. As far as the starseeds and the different so the bloodlines, obviously everything's bloodlines. Like I'm wondering, like, what is, as far as you're concerned, I've heard like we're mostly made up of reptilian and mammalian DNA, but obviously there's a bunch of different groups within us, within our DNA. Like we've heard 22 groups. Like, what do you think actually is happening there? Like, is everybody on the planet actually a starseed at their core? Or is there really just a group of like so many thousand people that are starseeds?
Well, everybody on this planet that is a non-NPC or a non-host for parasites is in a way not from this world, because all human-like species came from Lyra. So, but not everybody on this planet is at the same level of consciousness and soul evolution. So my perspective, or the difference between what I call the Earth Terrans and the Starseeds, is that the Earth Terrans are the younger souls. Those are the souls that started their evolution from bottom up. In other words, they were first the consciousness of an element, and then they became the consciousness of a mineral, and then they became the consciousness of a plant, and then an animal, and then they were transferred into human bodies. So those are what I call the Earth Terrans, the younger souls. The Starseeds are the souls that have already completed that and more. Those are the souls that have already ascended all the way to completion, where they become one with the universe. So that's what the Starseeds are. Those are the advanced souls of the cosmos that decided to return into the lower dimension in order to help Mother Earth. Because Mother Earth, one of the biggest secrets is that Mother Earth is the reincarnated Sophia, the Mother Universe in a planet. And that's why Earth is going to be at the epicenter and at the hub of the multiverse upon its ascension. It's going to be the new headquarters world, where the forces of light, led by the Starseeds, when they transform into meta-galactic humans, are going to be issuing new programs of creation, and from this Earth, and we're going to be seeding the cosmos. Yeah.
Right. So, what are your thoughts on this being a free will planet? Because I'm hearing theories now. Like, it's interesting how all this information surfaces. I think it's all to confuse us, but I'm hearing theories go around now that this being a free will planet is the illusion. It's never been a free will planet. It's just the illusion of free will. I don't know if I believe in that or not, but I would just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, the way I see it is predetermination and free will work together. From the highest level of reality, you planned everything. You planned all your circumstances, everything that you've ever experienced. It was all because you planned for the ultimate growth of your soul. So every decision you make, the way I see it, is in alignment with what your higher self already planned for you. So in a way, it was predetermined from a higher level of reality. And then from a low level of reality, where time is linear, your choices, every choice you make, it's because it's in alignment to what you've already planned out for yourself.
Yeah, right. I agree with that. I think
we live in a free will universe, by the way,
where
everything is allowed. We live in a free will universe where everything is allowed. Mm-hmm. Now, there are universes out there that don't have free will, because those were simulations that were developed by fallen entities, fallen celestials. And so from the beginning, those universes just become, they don't grow. They become stagnant because there is no freedom. They're fully controlled by some sort of a dictatorship from the beginning, and that dictatorship rules absolutely. So those universes eventually end up, in non-existent, because Yeah, they're not connected to the universal life force of the eternal spheres of the mother universe.
Right. I agree with that. I agree. I believe that it is a free will universe and a free will planet. I just it's interesting to hear that stuff getting thrown around. I feel like a lot of that is by design to really confuse people near the end, and it is confusing when we look around. It's hard to really tap into what's true and what's not, and it's just it's very complicated. But um, yeah, thank you for breaking that down.
I heard you talk about Nibiru on an interview. Could you tell us about your understanding of what that is, and is it coming back, do you think?
Yeah, it's almost here.
Okay.
They call it by many names, Nemesis, the Red Shekinah, according to the Hopi tradition, Wormwood, according to the Bible Revelation, the ancient planet of the crossing, according to the ancient Sumerian tablets. But really, that's the planet that's going to initiate the solar flash. See, this is what most people understand. The solar flash is not coming from our sun. Our sun is assisting it. The solar flash is coming from our second sun, which is Nibiru. And Nibiru is our second sun. Scientists have proven that when they said that our sun is part of a binary star system. Well, what they're referring to is Nibiru. And so Nibiru is almost here, and it's going to trigger the activation of the dormant DNA. It's going to trigger the catapult into the fifth dimensional reality for all of humanity. It's not going to whack us. It's not going to cause huge tsunamis.
Destruction.
It's part of destruction. That's part of the negative timeline, because Nibiru has actually been recuperated by the forces of light. It was originally created by the High Council of Sirius to be the battlestar planet for the Federation in their war against the Galactic Orion Draco Empire, it was infiltrated by Marduk and Enki during the Atlantean times, and for about 7,000 to 10,000 years, for about 6,000 years, Nibiru had been under the control of Marduk. But now Marduk was forced to step down in 2001, and as a result of that, Nibiru has now been recuperated and is now once again piloted by Federation forces. So yeah, its trajectory is being, it's being driven by somebody. It's being controlled by somebody.
It's being guided. Yeah.
Yeah, it's being guided. So we don't have nothing to worry about. Actually, Nibiru is what the Bible calls, at the time of the second coming. That's Judgment Day. That's what Nibiru is. It's gonna kill off all the wicked. It's because it's bringing the power back to the descendants of Enlil, which is the White Hats, by the way.
And you said in the Bible they call it wormwood. Is that so?
Wormwood in the Bible.
Right. Well, I mean, what is wormwood? Wormwood is what we use in a parasite cleanse. Like we take wormwood, to clean the parasites out of our body. This is like the parasite cleanse of the planet. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Did the Christian idea of like the rapture come from like the solar flash or the ascension? Is that where it came from?
But it was distorted when the Catholic Church, under the control of Marduk, who's always been draconian, by the way, the Catholic Church has been ruled by Marduk, Belial, son of, since its inception. They kind of distorted a lot of the stuff in the Bible, but yeah, that's where the Christians get the rapture from.
Yeah,
Nice.
right. I agree with I agree with that. Actually, when you really go into the roots of the Catholic Church, it's I don't know if you find anything good. I mean, there's some good teachings within that you can take from it, but at its roots, it seems to be the dark ones.
Well, it's Rome. It came from the Roman Empire, so say no more.
They worship Enki Marduk. They're part of the core of the Cabal. In fact, most of the child sacrifices and pedophilia has been conducted under the Vatican. The Vatican is at the central hub, more so than was Ukraine and Australia, which those are like second, third hubs. But the Vatican has always been the central hub of child sacrifice.
Unfortunately, that's all you need to know to understand, their roots, and that's very disturbing. Also, because we understand, the Vatican is hoarding all of the knowledge that we need to thrive as a like a Star Trek civilization, and I wonder
the Vatican library. They all those books that you're not allowed to. They're just hoarding it in there. It's like,
I wonder what or if we're going to get any release of that and how that's going to look.
Oh yeah, we are. The White Hats already seized the Vatican vaults. By the way, the real
Nice.
Pope has been arrested. Yeah,
The real what?
the real Pope has been taken down.
I think was this just recently or
I think it was back in December or November. Where
okay.
they cut off the head of the snake, which is the Pope. The Pope is at the head of the cabal. Well, technically the Black Pope, the Supreme Jesuit General.
Yeah.
But he's also been taken down too.
Right. I watched a video of some like independent reporter at the Vatican while this like ritual or ceremony was taking place, but from what she was seeing, she said it looked like the Black Pope was resigning. That's what the way she was interpreting it. But she's like, this is a huge deal. Like, why is no one talking about this? And it's interesting that you said cut off the head of the snake because James Casbolt said that's how you have to kill these people. You have to cut off their head because the parasites and the nanotechnology, they regenerate. He said they literally will regenerate. The only way to kill them is to cut off their head. And that's just like a snake, you know? It's very, very interesting concept. And he even talked about one of the Rothschilds being killed because he was there as a witness. And then he said like 2 days later, he saw that same person on the news. He's like, these people have clones running around. So in the public eye, he was still alive. And I forget who it was, but if they're doing that with him, they're doing that with everyone. And you wonder how many of these people have actually had their heads cut off and how many of them are actually clones.
I would have to say at this point, including what's his name, Soros, and is it Klaus, the head of the
Klaus Schwab?
Yeah.
They're all clones, you know. At this point, yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I know we're coming up on the end of the hour, but I know you've mentioned some secret space program involvement and some recall and stuff that you believe you've been a part of. Would you be willing to share any of that information?
Sure. I just recently started getting memories about 9 months ago through dreams. Memories of going off to other universes and galaxies, not just our universe, to fight off some, different types of AI androids or AI infested entities, whatever you want to call them. And I was starting to think like, how come I keep getting the same dream, and seeing myself in uniform, being strapped, having these amazing superhero powers. So I started researching, because the name that I kept getting was Radiant Guardians, and I didn't know about Radiant Guardians. All I known about was Solar Warden. And so I started researching about Radiant Guardians, and it turns out that, there's not much to know about Radiant Guardians, because that was like the 5th branch of the secret space program that was initiated by beings beyond the Galactic Federation. Only 100 individuals were picked, and the only reason they were picked is because the mothers that they use as surrogates, by the way, carried a very high concentration of what we call mitochondria, or mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. And so fortunately, my mother was one of those. And so she was a surrogate. She would always tell me about like how before I was born, like she was taken upon these ships and these angels would work on her and modify me, because the angels would tell her that they were going to make a superhero out of me, that I was more of an angel and stuff. And so she used to tell me these things as a kid. I never quite really believed her. I used to think she was just trying to make me feel better because I was always bullied in school, and I used to come home depressed because nobody wanted to be my friend. So I used to think she would tell me these stories to kind of lift me up. But then, as I started getting my memories, 25 years later, it just started making sense. And then the first whistleblower that I heard talk about Radiant Guardians is what's his name? Randy Kramer.
Right.
Randy Kramer, Radiant Guardians. But he talked about the branch that was working with Solar Warden. He didn't talk about the off-world branch. I think the off-world branch was mainly known as Radiant or Guardian Rainbow or Radiant Guardians. But they also had another branch another name called the Cosmic Rainbow Guardians, or something to that effect. That was a branch that was left off the records.
What's interesting, the whistleblower Carrie Cassidy just had on Project Camelot like 2 days ago, talked about the Radiant Guardians. He's not a part of it, but he was on. He was part of what he called the Kraken or whatever. It was a different faction of the secret space program, and he spent a year on Mars. But he's also right now they have like this Sasquatch in captivity, and they're learning everything about it. He was explaining it, but he he said the three branches of the secret space program that he was personally aware of was the Radiant Guardians, Solar Warden, and then the one he was involved in. So it's just interesting. We have yet another person talking about that. And if you say it's as small as it is, that's even more interesting. Like 100 people, that's a small unit, that doesn't even branch.
The super soldiers that were initiated to work within this faction were the 7th generation group super soldiers. That's what they are. There's been 7 generations of creating super soldiers since the 1950s.
Right. I've heard people talk about that. Like James Rink, I know you were recently on his show, but he's always talking about the different gens of super soldiers and what they were accomplishing with each one. It's pretty fascinating. At the same time, it's like it takes away what it means to be a human. There's a lot there, but at the end of the day, I think we sign up for this on some level. I mean, everything. I mean, what are your thoughts? Actually, yeah, before we wrap this up, what are your thoughts on that? Like us signing up for all these programs, even though like there's torture involved sometimes and some very traumatic stuff.
It's all part of a greater plan, ultimately, even evil is controlled by the highest good, So the way I see it is everything happens for a reason. It's just unfortunate that many of the people that were recruited to these programs had to be brutally tortured, through trauma-based experiences and stuff, just to kind of like get them to I guess fractionalize or get into an alter ego.
Mm-hmm.
But they made super soldiers out of them. In the end, they became instrumental in the defense of our galaxy, in the defense of our solar system.
Right.
But in my case, I wasn't part of the trauma-based programs. No, I was. They just made me in a petri dish.
But that's interesting to me because I've seen this. I don't know if I've been shown a new wave of whistleblowers coming forward talking about a program that is outside of the trauma-based programs and that is working for the light and not this dark fleet stuff that we're always hearing about. And I think it's beautiful, actually, that we're finally starting to get some of this other information that is showing us and proving to us that, yes, there is a force out there that is working for humanity. And I think so. As far as your recall goes, it's just all come in the form of dreams. And like the term Radiant Guardian, like where did you see that term within your recall to know that that's what you were a part of?
On the ship that we were employed. So when we would go into these ships to go off to open up a portal and go off into another universe, I saw the logo Radiant Guardians everywhere. When we would go to Jupiter for a preliminary meeting before we were, set off to our mission, I saw everybody was wearing a logo Radiant Guardian, or elite super soldier Radiant Guardians. So that's how the name got stuck to me.
Very interesting. So do you have like as far as how much you remember, do you have recall of like any of the missions or just like the general like what you were a part of?
Just general. I still don't have details yet. I'm yet to uncover those memories.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really. I guess it was for my own safety to not know what I was involved in. But I also believe that the way they did it is that they put a timer on my memory. So when the time is right, all my memories were going to be coming back. And then I was going to remember things to the point where I would actually trigger these abilities, these Superman abilities that I had, flying, shooting laser beam eyes through my eyes, shooting plasma balls through my hands, just doing all kinds of wonderful things. It's all going to be coming back.
Right. And I think that's very interesting. You said that there's like a time limit. And if you were to remember too early, we had to wait for a certain reason, for whatever the case may be. I'm sure it's different for every individual. But I do think that there is something to what you said as far as being the right time. And the super soldier thing, like that's such a like a Marvel comic term. But then you go back to the origins of Marvel Comics and you realize there's a lot of disclosure within that. And it almost seems like a lot of these superheroes is disclosure of these like experimental programs that they were working on within these black budget programs. And I feel like that's where they were getting the ideas for a lot of these superheroes that we all have grown to know and love.
That's exactly how it happened. Yeah, Stan Lee was a part of ultra secret meetings back in the 50s. And so he was an insider. And I think even the writer of DC Comics was involved in these secret meetings.
I believe that. Where does that information come from? I'd never heard that before, that they were part of the secret meetings.
Oh, this information that I was able to access through my own remote viewing. Yeah, sometimes these abilities come back, but not the flying and shooting, laser through.
Right.
Get to do that. Telekinesis. But as far as like remote viewing and astral projection, sometimes I can tap into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe I just, even for myself, I've been like receiving like these activations lately and going through this whole process, and a lot of stuff coming up that I need to heal. It's a whole thing I'm going through right now. But within all that, I'm starting to notice stuff like that, being able to tap into certain information. And it's something very interesting that I never really expected, but I'm understanding it better now, because I always wondered, like, how are these people tapping in? But then I got a taste of it. I'm like, okay. And it's just very interesting. So is there anything you want to, any last words, anything you want to leave us with before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I would like to just let everybody know out there that my book is available on Amazon. For those that haven't ordered the book, it is the most comprehensive, detailed book regarding the galactic history, the organization of cosmos, Earth's relationship to the multiverse, and much more. It's a consolidation of ancient metaphysical deep knowledge, and integrating it with cutting-edge science through quantum physics while explaining the bigger picture. So in a way, it's an attempt to explain everything. So it's definitely a mind opener. I'm also teaching online courses, Starseed Cosmology courses, where I give people an in-depth understanding of the different star races, the history of the galaxy, but in great detail. Information that has a lot to do with the activation of their dormant DNA, and then techniques at the end so that their DNA could, so that they could reach their higher purpose.
Get off.
Oh, do you guys hear that?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I have to get going.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Can I give you my link for my Starseed Cosmology course?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'll drop the link into the description. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing everything, and thank you for doing what you do. We really appreciate your time.